So we haven't done a bit of story time with Chops for a while, so I thought I would do a video because a story came across my desk this week, which I think you'll all be very interested in. And it also backs up why I'm so reluctant to do distance selling. But before we get into the story, I need to introduce the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Surfshark provides a VPN, a virtual private network. A virtual private network is a secure internet connection that encrypts your data and masks your IP address whilst you're online. This can allow you to browse the net securely, knowing your data is not at risk of being captured. Secure VPNs also allow you to work remotely from home, keeping the connection to your business secure and safe. Surfshark are the leading provider of VPNs for a variety of reasons, including the fact that they use 100% RAM-only servers. RAM-only servers are faster but also delete all data when powered off and on again, unlike hard drives which retain data even when turned off, allowing easier data breaches. Surfshark also has top-of-the-line encryption and a no-logs policy, meaning they never store or collect the data of your online sessions. And those who watch Chops Garage for a long while will know that one of my favourite features of using Surfshark, as well as keeping me secure online, is its ability to allow me to change my IP address, meaning I can access geo-locked content on streaming services and so forth, that is locked based on my location. By simply using the changing IP feature on Surfshark, I can access content from all over the world. Your Surfshark account can be used both on your PC and on your mobile phone, so you can protect yourself whatever device you might be using to access the internet. So if you want to secure your privacy with Surfshark, get to the link in the video description down below and use the coupon code CHOPS to get an extra 4 months free. I want to thank Surfshark for being a continued sponsor of Chops Garage. So those who watch the channel for a while know I've done distance sales in the past in my small car dealership, and none of them have gone particularly well for no reason of my own. Just because with distance sales, people have certain rights of rejection that they don't have. They come and buy a car off you in the flesh. And obviously, the biggest problem I see with distance sales is that one person's opinion of an immaculate car, one person's opinion of fair wear and tear on a vehicle for its age. I'm talking not about the mechanical components, I'm talking about the bodywork, the trim, that kind of thing, can be very different from another's. Even with a walk around video, detailed walk around video, you can still have problems. You will recall in the past I sold a Ford Focus that was returned to me because the customer said the boot lid was going to rust because there were a couple of stone chips on it, when in fact the boot lid on the Estates is plastic. So we've had issues like that, and the thing is, every time that happens, you have to refund the full invoice, and if on the invoice you've got the transportation cost in there, then you're refunding the transportation cost as well. So you're, and that could be 300-400 miles away. So I made the decision that people would come here to buy the cars. They'd look at them and make sure they're 100% happy with them, and we wouldn't get the complications of distance selling. Don't get me wrong on this point. I've done a number of distance sales with subscribers that watch the channel have gone for absolutely perfectly. They've been reasonable people, and we've put several videos out before they've had the car delivered, and it's all been good. But overall, I've decided not to do it. Now, one of the reasons is because it is actually quite a legal minefield. And this example I'm going to give you is going to explain to you exactly why. And because there are people out there that will work these systems as well, in a way that they weren't designed to. They're obviously, the systems are designed to protect genuine customers, but there are people that are less genuine out there that can use these systems to their advantage. And one of those being that if someone says to you, I want to buy a car, I want to have it delivered to me, you can put together an invoice, you can add the delivery costs, you can have your contract to sell, you can have the car delivered to them. But when they get the vehicle delivered to them, so this is only if it's delivered to them, they have an immediate 14-day return right to reject the vehicle for any reason whatsoever. So when you buy the car from somebody's forecourt, when you come and visit and buy the car, you have a right to rejection in 30 days for a fault on the vehicle, but you have no right to return the vehicle just because you don't like it, just because you don't like the colour, the way it drives, the seating position, the entertainment system is too complicated. But if you have a vehicle delivered distance sales wise to you, it's delivered to you, you have 14 days, you can reject the car for any reason whatsoever. So you might decide, I don't like the colour, I don't like the seat, I don't like the infotainment system, and you can send it back, something you can't do if you buy it on site. Now, the law says that if you do not provide the customer with information as to those 14-day return rights at point of sale, their 14-day return rights begin at the point you do provide them with that information. So let's say, for example, I sent a car out to a customer and 6 months later they decided they wanted to return the car. If I'd not provided them with the documentation to show them their 14-day return rights, they could action them at that point. So they could say, you didn't give me the information of 14-day return rights. I could send it to them and they could immediately just reject the car even after 6 months worth of use. So I think you're getting an idea where this could get abused. So there was a case recently where a chap had been buying cars and he was a legally trained chap. This information has come to me through the dealer network. Some of you might have already heard this story. A chap who was legally trained, who has managed so far to have 2 Teslas absolutely free for 12 months at a time. And on his 3rd attempt is when he got caught up with. So what he was doing is distance buying Teslas. He was running them for 12 months and then using this law to catch out dealers that hadn't provided the paperwork to him correctly. And because of the way it is set up, he was legally entitled to do so. If they hadn't provided him with his 14 days, he could run the car for the full 12 months and then he could return them totally legally under the law and have his invoice refunded to him. Obviously, the big problem with that being those cars have potentially depreciated by huge amounts of money in that time, especially electric cars were depreciating by huge amounts of money in that time. And obviously there's the general wear and tear and so forth. The dealers are ended up being massively out of pocket, not because they've done something wrong. They've sold them a faulty or a damaged or a faulty vehicle, which is a totally genuine reason to return a car, but simply because they didn't dot an I or cross a T. And that's the point of this thing. We're not talking about distance selling being wrong because we don't want people to be able to return cars that have faults or issues or are not as described. That's a totally genuine reason for returning the vehicle. I think anybody who's distance sold a vehicle that it arrives and it wasn't as it was described, it had faults and so forth, that's a perfectly reasonable reason to return a car. But this isn't the situation. So what this guy was doing was, knowing the law, was setting out to do dealers over. So he had one, managed to return it that way, got himself a second one and managed to do the same thing. 12 months worth of free driving around in a Tesla. Did the same thing, found a dealer that didn't dot the I's and cross the T's, used that 14-day return right to return the vehicle. On his 3rd attempt, he had the unfortunate situation of dealing with a dealer that was backed by Logistics, which is a company you can pay as a dealer. I do highly recommend it. Pay as a dealer to support you in situations where there are sort of legal wranglings with customers. And it turned out that Logistics had actually had to deal with the situation previously with another dealer and act on their behalf with this very same customer. And that occasion they'd had to let it slide because the customer was within their rights to return the vehicle because the dealer hadn't done their 14 days correctly. What was different with the 3rd situation is this guy's got presumably quite smug by this point and has decided he's gonna push it even further. And what he did with this dealer is he messaged them or rang them, I'm not sure which, and said, I want to buy the vehicle, but I want to make it a really easy, clean pickup. I want you to send me an invoice and I'll pay in advance and I'll come and pick it up. So what he was going to do this time was actually go on site to pick the vehicle up, but he was trying to trap the dealer into a situation where it was classed as a distance sale because he'd already paid in advance. So he got the salesman to agree to invoice him in advance. He got made the payment before he picked up the vehicle, and then he went and picked up the car and took it away. Lo and behold, about another 12 months later on, he then put a claim in saying that he'd had a distance sale and he'd never had his 14-day return rights. Now, he was classing as distance sales because he paid in advance before he went and picked the vehicle up. Now, Logistics, obviously, as I said, had already dealt with this chap before, so knew what his game was, and when it went to court, they presented these facts to the judge that he'd previously done this a couple of times, and that he'd basically tried to trap this dealership into unknowingly doing a distance sale, when as far as they were concerned they weren't doing a distance sale because it was coming on site to pick it up. Now luckily the judge saw through this with the information he had from Logistics that this guy had done this for previous times, could see that he'd been manipulated the system to try and falsely make this into a distance sale, actually awarded the dealer costs, and the guy's, I think it was over £20,000 that he has got now to pay. So that is a result. I do feel for the previous two dealers that got done by this chap before. Again, not for selling dodgy vehicles and him instigating his rights that way, but for just being done by a chap who knew exactly what he was doing, trying to get free motoring. You can imagine him bragging to people, can't you, about how he'd managed to get these cars absolutely free because he knows the law and he's managed to work the system. It can make your blood boil, really. So I do feel for those previous two dealers, but I am obviously pleased with the third dealer that this guy's got caught out and is having to pay the fees as well. I think that's fantastic, and well done to the judge that saw him for what he was. But even so, Logistics came out of that saying it wasn't an absolute given that would go in the favour of the dealer, even with the evidence that was at hand, because you have to be very careful about taking deposits over the phone, taking deposits online for vehicles, to specify that it is not a payment for the vehicle, but instead, and this is something I've taken away from it, instead it's a reservation fee to view the vehicle. Because if you invoice the customer for the vehicle and make the payment a deposit on the vehicle, it could still technically be classed as a distance sale. So like I say, there's a really important lesson to take away from this, that if someone wants to come and see a vehicle and you're going to make them put a deposit down, make him put it down as a reservation fee or a deposit to view the vehicle to protect yourself, and even specify that it does not signify the agreement of a distance sale. So it's something I've been putting on my invoices for deposits for people to come view the vehicles now. It's a shame you have to do that. I mean, like I say, 99% of people out there are trustworthy and they just want to make sure they can reserve a car so they can come and see it and it doesn't sell in between. But clearly you've got to be careful of these people out there that will milk a system designed to protect the public. I mean, I think there was an example the other day as well on I think it was on Joe's podcast, where he talks to people that have just started up car dealerships, and there's a guy that's not been doing cars for very long, and he very enthusiastically agreed to deliver a car to a customer that wanted to see a car because he wanted to get his first sale closed off. And he didn't realise basically he was entering into a distance sale, and then the chap came to him about 6 months or more later with a problem with the vehicle and said he'd lost faith in it. Now at that point, as a dealer, you're if it's over 6 months, you don't have to really do anything. But if it's under 6 months, he'd have to do a repair on the vehicle. But because he hadn't provided him with his distance selling paperwork, the guy was able just to actually reject the vehicle altogether. He didn't actually have to accept a repair on it at all. So that was a tough lesson for him to learn. So if you are out there doing cars, don't be so keen to deliver cars to people. Don't be so keen to do distance selling. I know sometimes it's exciting to get a sale in and try and close one off, but where possible, I'd recommend getting the customer to come to your premises and view the vehicle at your premises. If you do end up doing distance sales, make sure you provide them with that 14 days information, the information from how they can return the car within the first 14 days. There'll be templates for that online, I'm sure. And hopefully by doing that, we can stop people using the system in such an unpleasant way as in that example there. So I hope you enjoyed that story. I'll see you on the next one.